Okay. Yeah, but yeah, normally we don't.
Oh,
yeah, normally we don't. Last week we had a really intense conversation about why should I go to church. So, okay. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Xiaolong. So today is a little bit different. I'm speaking English, and that's my hidden talent of speaking English as somebody who lives in Chicago over 14 years now. Mm-hmm. So. I'm with some special guests today. Normally, we do it in Chinese with my Chinese congregation, but today is actually the 20th year anniversary of a New Life Community Church, Bridgeport. So this church has been in Bridgeport over 20 years. It's a special day, and we just invited some brothers and sisters from our English congregation. We designed a different topic, names 20 years in Bridgeport. In Chinese, it's something more romantic. Yeah, but it's okay. We are going to share about the church history of this faith community, and also our life experience with this congregation, and a little bit about vision, how we proceed from here. So let's introduce each other. My good friend Luke.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm Luke Dudenhofer, and I serve as the pastor of the English congregation.
Yeah. Chris.
Christine Leonard. I'm just a member here.
Yeah.
Marcus Lewis, and I am also a member here.
How long have you been here, Marcus?
12 years.
12 years, yeah.
My name is Kat Morgan. I'm a member here. I've been here 18 years and the wife of an elder here.
Oh, okay. 18 years.
I think so.
So you are the longest, except Luke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're close. 16?
Yeah.
Something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Xiaolong, and I passed out the Mandarin congregation here. I came here 8 years ago, I believe, right?
Yeah.
8 years ago, and at that time it's an English congregation here. We planted a Mandarin congregation. At the beginning, we worshiped together for a while. Mm-hmm. Then we separated as an independent congregation. But a lot of change, even for 8 years. But I want you guys to share with me a little bit about how it was like 20 years ago. Yeah, how it was like in Bridgeport, how you started this ministry.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. So this church was an existing congregation. It was a denomination called Congregational United Church of Christ. And in the late 90s, they had a pastor come from Moody Bible Institute who began to teach the Bible and lead people to faith in Jesus in a very sound, good doctrine way. And so there was great things happening. The congregation was changing. They were growing a little bit numerically. I have a picture. As we're celebrating the anniversary, we have pictures all around here. There's a picture of a neighbor who lived across the street named Marco, who was baptized. And on the same day, a woman named Ethel, who was in her upper 70s, was baptized the same day. Mm-hmm. Marco was just led to Jesus, and Ethel had been coming here many years but had never been taught that she should be baptized.
Wow.
And so that was the kind of story. Mm-hmm. There's new people, and the old people are being reformed to sound doctrine. Mm-hmm. The congregation was mostly senior citizens in the early days, and they were used to a church that was run by a church council, committees, doing big fundraisers, so there was some big changes that came when we started as New Life Community Church. So that's the congregation. I would say the neighborhood, and Chris has lived here the longest, the neighborhood 20 years ago was about 1/3 white European immigrants, and then Hispanic, mostly Mexican, and then Asian, mostly Cantonese speaking.
Yeah.
That's what it was 20 years ago, and today that's different.
We for our audience benefit, just to introduce the city and Bridgeport a little bit. So we are in Chicago, and everybody knows Chicago from their own source. Yeah, some people think it's a big city and very culturally active, and it's very beautiful. It's all true, and it's always complicated in some way. Bridgeport is an older neighborhood here.
Yeah.
And why it's called Bridgeport?
Do you know?
Mind?
I believe I was told that it was because of there was bridges that surrounded it. So
Yeah. It's a port.
Yeah,
It's actually a port.
that's true. So what I heard is that over by Archer Avenue, where the South Fork of the river is, there was a bridge, and because it was so slow, the boats backed up, so it became a port.
Ah.
So much traffic.
Okay.
So
So
they
it's
called
not
it,
a real port because the.
no. They called it Bridgeport.
Okay. That's why I never thought port. I just saw some bridges.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So you should give us the history. What's Bridgeport known for historically?
Well, I believe that living here in Bridgeport, I find that it has like a town kind of feel to it. I don't feel a suburb feel. I don't feel a city feel.
Okay.
But I do feel, or a farm feel, of course.
Okay.
But I do feel that it is more of a township kind of a feel. And growing up in here, it was very family, neighborhood, black-minded. You know, so they would be watching over our children. We'd be watching over their children. So it was pretty much family-minded.
Very close, right? People know each other.
Very close.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember growing up and I had to make sure that nobody was watching me so I can do whatever bad thing I wanted to do. Because it would get back to my mom.
Yeah. So you are Italian?
I'm Italian.
You're Italian, yeah. Yeah, you have such a strong root here and Little Italy, the neighborhood, Bridgeport, Little Italy, right?
Well, I believe it's
On the UIC.
yeah,
On the
well,
UIC, yeah.
on the other side, years ago, on the other side of the viaduct here on 31st Street, that was up to 26. That was all Italian
Yeah.
until they started to put up the highways.
Oh.
And they
okay.
had to move them. And that's when they went over to Taylor Street
Yeah.
and UIC.
The neighborhood was very Catholic, right?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
Yes. And that was one of the reasons why I had ventured out of the neighborhood to find a church that I felt was biblically grounded. So I was a Catholic, active at Nativity of Our Lord, and extremely active. I was involved in all of their different little ministries there. But when I came to know the Lord through a Bible study in 1974, I was saved in October of 1974. So I started to seek a Bible-believing church, which was a Baptist church on 47th Street in Canaryville. They had a little school that was, for kindergartners and first graders. But as the school started growing, the church moved out to Oak Lawn. And when the church moved out to Oak Lawn, of course, us in the neighborhood, we didn't move out there. We traveled out there with our children. And I think the reason why it was traveling, because our husbands that were a part of this church, they worked for the city. So you couldn't live outside of outside of Chicago. So there was a lot of traveling back and forth. And so I grew up, and my Christian walk started in a Baptist church. So.
Yeah. Kat, how did you came to this church, and what was it like?
Yeah, 20 years
18 years. Yeah, 18 years ago.
Yeah, so my husband, we were dating, and we started dating long distance.
Yeah.
So he was in Pennsylvania, and I was still in Chicago because I had just graduated. So I came and visited the church while he was still in Pennsylvania because I wanted to check it out. And when I got here, there were 2 people from Moody that I recognized. One girl who used to be on my floor, which was fun. It was like,
You graduated from Moody.
Yeah.
I thought Bobby, the one, graduated from Moody. He's not?
He did.
He
He's
did.
a year
Okay.
behind me.
Oh, okay,
He's a
okay.
year younger. So Becky Foster she and I were on the same floor. yeah, and then Heather, I knew Heather and Micah from Moody. And then I don't know if we ever crossed at Moody, Luke.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a little.
and then, and I think I met Chris probably like one of the first weeks, and very quickly got involved in some of women's ministry stuff, which was really fun and exciting. So, yeah, and I think just always walking in, it's always been an authentic congregation. So I think what's unique and exciting about New Life is, and not every location started like this, but I thought the name New Life was that they were coming into old churches and breathing new life into it. And so there were people who volunteered, like it was their mission to come from another congregation to help us build a church. And so they would just come in and they were like, we're leading a small group. And so so that was Stephen and Charlie, or Charlie and Susan. Chapa and the Foscos. And so they started these small groups, and I think just through that you like invited someone or knew someone, and well, I don't know, isn't Pastor, I feel like New Life is very much like numbers, like how many in the small group, write it down. It's got to grow by this number. And so but it actually worked, like and then I think over 20 years I don't know if, I mean, we live in a city, so that's always hard. Is like there's students who leave, there's people who have babies and then they move to Michigan, and then so they go, and so we did have a very big core group of people who all had babies together, and then we would have Bible study. Like I know Melissa's doing a Bible study right now, and I was like, that was our old group. Like it was Melissa and Ann and Jessica, and we all had our babies. And I remember, the elders always talking like strategic. Like if we make it hard for young families to leave, then they will stay. And so like building like community around those young families. And so I think most of them have stuck out longer than they typically would have. And now some are still leaving because they need more space for kids. And so they might still be in Chicago, but a little bit further out. So yeah, the city's hard like that.
Right.
Yeah. Marcus? Time to share your...
Yeah, came around to me.
Yeah.
So, and the question is...
how do you came to this church? It's a story like our people always sharing about. Jackson just shared it with our church members weeks ago. Inspires everybody. So
yes, thank the Lord. So I will start out by saying this. When I was introduced to Pastor Luke in this church, I was homeless and addicted to drugs, crack cocaine. And I had been that way for 38 years.
38 years.
When I met Pastor Luke. The reason why I say 40 years is because after I met Pastor Luke, it was still a year or two that we struggled with Christ, homelessness, and addiction to drugs. So that was a struggle because I had been used to living the way I wanted to live, and I wasn't about to change, so I thought. But so when I met Pastor Luke...
How did you guys meet?
I'm getting ready to say. So my way of making money was going up and down these alleys, going to people's garbage cans, collecting whatever scrap, but basically collecting aluminum cans. And so I happened to be right there in the back, behind the gym, and this guy walked up, and he didn't say he was, did he tell me he was the pastor? I don't think. He asked me, did I know Christ? And he had some peanuts and some peanut butter crackers. And so he shared that with me. And so we got to talking, but I wasn't nowhere into Jesus, nothing like that. But what I like about Pastor Luke and this church, they accepted me as I was. And I was in bad shape. I remember when Pastor Luke cut my hair for the first time in maybe 5
He cut your hair?
Yeah, he cut it upstairs. Yeah, and our conversation was about hygiene. And so my response was, first of all, who is this guy? He's telling me about it. I done already lived my life. So when he started talking about hygiene, I said, well, look, Pastor Luke, and this is a real situation. I don't think I've washed my hands 5 times in the last 40 years, and it hasn't killed me yet. And his response was, well, you're not by yourself no more. You're around people, so you're going to have to check yourself. But it was pleasant. It was pleasant to me as a homeless person, as addicted to drugs, because I felt he cared. Now, I used to pass by here all the time before I became a part of this church, and I used to see everybody out front, casually dressed, no suits and ties, just casually dressed, and I actually told myself, well, I don't think I'll ever be a part of that church. I actually told myself that. But, and my testimony is for the Lord. Glory to the Lord. Don't never say what you won't do, because God already has a plan. But, yeah, so that's how I became a part. It was a struggle. There's just so many stories behind just meeting Pastor Luke and knowing Pastor Luke and him putting up with me. You know, him bringing me into a church. I didn't know nothing about etiquette. I didn't know nothing about social gathering. I didn't know nothing, because I lived under a bridge for 40 years. But yeah, it was just amazing to see. It melted my heart to see that somebody, I mean, sure, you think you're on the corner, you ask people for nickels and dimes and they give you nickels, but that ain't caring. But he actually cared. And then I got to meet people and they actually cared. They actually cared. And that I saw that, I recognized that. And so, yeah, I've been here.
So you can revisit the situation and tell us that what were you doing and what were you caring for?
Well, we had a ministry early on, led by a sister named Lindy, who had herself been homeless for a little while, and she just had a burden to help homeless people in our neighborhood. And I feel like, you guys can chime in, there was a larger homeless population around the neighborhood back then. It was more visible.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I think it was more visible.
Mark said 20 years ago he went to some kind of mystery place. There's eye-opening, like a whole lot of drug dealing people, homeless people were there in Bridgeport. Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So when we started hosting them here, we called it Bread of Life.
Okay.
Someone would make a big pot of soup or chili, something, and we would always have a gospel presentation, and then whatever staff we had would sit down and talk with the men and women who came while we were eating. And we became a place for clothing and all kinds of donations. People were always dropping stuff off. We looked for food, Panera Bread, Starbucks. We'd get bags and bags of these things, and we'd share them with any neighbors who needed them. So this was part of our ministry, and Marcus came to that. I don't think maybe that was your first. Maybe this was first when you met me and Allie, or...
Yeah, that was the first. I would come to but I was never a person that I could have lived in the mission.
Yeah.
You know, but I chose to live on the street. So I never could get along. My fault with people. You know,
so I remember I think we made a change to go out to homeless camps, and that's where Marcus, I feel like, really started understanding the gospel. And a man named Bob Gray and a man named David Medina were very much part of leading Marcus to faith in Christ, and then he started coming on Sundays. And so people knew we had this ministry to homeless, and so I think it was not a shock that there were homeless people coming to our Sunday gathering. And there was a grace. People understood, and I feel like they very much welcomed that. We're reaching the least of these. We're reaching people who are not yet, all put together. And who of us is all put together anyway? But yeah, I do feel like there was a grace, there was an acceptance. And then in the private moments, Marcus and I would have those conversations. Okay, you got to wash your hands, buddy, you know. And but little by little, and I think that's probably a mark over the years, Marcus, and I think there's other people too, where I would give God glory and say, there were people who were really hurting, but they were loved well by our congregation, and over time, they came to Christ. And they just, little by little, became mature in the faith, and their life is transformed, but it didn't happen like this.
Yeah.
No. It was a process.
It was a process.
Yeah.
Big process, long process. Yeah.
I kind of really curious because in the post-pandemic period of time, everybody needs to redefine what church is and what should we do, what makes a church. And I just want to ask you guys, what do you think made this church? What is the most important part of make this church special for you?
What's interesting is that when I came to know Lord, I wanted to be a part of a Bible-believing church, somebody who can
it's hard to find
feed
nowadays.
me. In the neighborhood here, it was not here.
Okay.
So when I went to Southside Baptist Church, of course, they moved out to Oak Lawn, but they were limited, I guess, for me, because I was starving to grow more. And with that, because of that, I felt led that I started going to Moody Bible Institute, so for classes, and then from there, I left Southside Baptist and went to another church called Hope, which was a non-denominational church. And through that church, I was being developed into a leader, and because of my personality, I suppose. I'm a very strong woman.
No.
But there. Anyways, but being at Moody Bible Institute, you had to have a ministry program finished. So I went into the women's ministry, was in that program. So when I heard that New Life was here, I remember New Life when it was in its very first stages, and Pastor Mark had a lot of hair, and he was not married, and his church was very small, just like this. Right. And I wasn't too interested in it because, again, I came out of a Baptist church, and they were having all this hip-hop music that was kind of off-key for me. So I thought, okay, kids, ducklings, stay next to mommy. And then we grew up at Hope.
Yeah.
When I heard New Life came into here, I was very curious. So when I came here, I was on a mission to see what this church was offering and if it was Bible-based. And of course, I heard Pastor Luke preach, and I heard Jeff up there on the stage doing his guitar-y thing, and then he handed me some maracas, I guess they're called.
Oh yeah, Jeff used to hand out the instruments for everybody to play.
And I had brought a woman, Sally, I don't know if you remember Sally, my neighbor, and she came with me, and she really enjoyed the church. At that time, I was transitioning out of Hope, and I wanted to be close to home because I thought, man, I'm getting old. I need to establish myself in my neighborhood because I knew I was bounded here. And what's interesting is that my life verse comes from Psalms 119, verse 1-5, which is, be a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. That's why I went to Moody, so that I can learn how to study that Bible, learn how to apply it to my life, and then how I can expound it out to other women. And my mission statement was helping people meet Christ and grow in Him. So I needed something that would come along with my purpose statement and my mission statement. And so that's when I walked into this church. Was I greeted? I'm sure I was, but that was not what I was focused on. I was focused on a lot of the women, because being a part of women's ministry, I wanted to see the women. And so I was in and out of this church until about maybe 16 years ago when I transitioned out and finally established myself here. And it was because, first of all, the preaching was grounded. It was solid. It was, I mean, I understood everything. I really didn't have too many questions. And then also I had the availability of growing up in this neighborhood, of talking to a lot of my neighbors and that are very Catholic, and talking to them about this church because there was a place that we can all go to. Did I bring them all in by the folds? No. But that's okay because I was doing what I felt I could do, and it was because of this church being here that I felt it was safe for me to go out and bring them if they chose to come.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's where that is.
Yeah. What is that for you, Ken? Lisa?
So I sort of forgot the question, but I think what has always been great about this church is, well, like Luke said, we had a Bread of Life ministry. Luke has always been accessible. So you came for Bible teaching. I would say I probably was already grounded. I went to Moody because I wanted Bible teaching. And my parents always were always involved in the church. They were our youth pastors. Our youth group was like 5 people. We were 3 of them. Like, so like, but to have Luke, like have access to Luke and to be like also a strong woman who always plays the devil's advocate and will push Luke in several different ways. Have you thought about this? Well, to not be rejected by that, but I think also he's led us like humbly in like I came from churches where people have been church their whole life. And so to come into a congregation where like we're going to respect somebody who comes into our congregation and they're not going to be forced to sit in the back and they're going to sit wherever they want and we're all going to love them and walk through life with them at whatever stage. And I would say that has been huge in like Bridgeport, and probably one of the reasons why the ministry of Bread of Life still isn't happening is because Luke is limited on being like the only man like to do all the ministries. So he's very much like, if you have a heart to do it, you do it. That's right. Go. And so we don't have, well, I think it's starting to come back with Ade.
With Ade, yes.
But for a while, so I think the ministries just ebb and flow. And so to have a pastor who's willing to let things fall apart, like they're not falling apart, they're just not being led right now. And so I've been like very involved with the women's ministry, kind of when that was happening, and then a little bit more with like younger moms and that. I've always appreciated that we have older people in the congregation and younger, and I remember some of the most formative things were when Luke and Melissa and Marty and Amy led a parenting class one Saturday, and they bought 7 books for us and said, here are some books, but they also sat us through like Marty was very big on legacy. I think we were doing something at that time where that was what he was supposed to preach on from the front every week for 4 weeks. But just, and like challenging us, like what you're starting a family, what is the mission for your family? What is the mission for your child? Like why, like what are you raising them in? And that has been foundational for us as a family. And even as we hear other families going through stuff with their kids, we're like, do they have a mission statement? Like, cause obviously like they gotta start there. So yeah, and I think just the ebbs and flows of people leaving and coming with the pandemic, I don't feel like I know a lot of the congregation right now. Supposedly there was a huge online presence of people, and there's these people, they're not gonna watch, but they had a baby, and I remember it being in the bulletin saying, bring them a meal, and I'm like, I have never heard of these people. And he's like, they've been there, and they were at church in the park. I'm like, never seen them before in my life. Yeah. We were at a barbecue with them last weekend. They're wonderful. I talked to them the day before, was telling them like all the junk about raising boys who are prepubescent. But like I do feel like we don't know this congregation from that pandemic. So we are definitely like weighing personally, like, okay, do we start having people over on Sunday afternoons?
Right.
Or do we do a youth group? Because even being here last night and the whole row of boys is fabulous. And I lead Sunday school every week, and it like brings me so much pleasure. There's 12 boys down there. There's 12 of us down there, and it's funny because Luke's daughter Ethne volunteers with us, and then there's one little Ruby, and Ruby will be talking, and I'll be like, boys, listen up, because we have an insight into girls' lives. Like, 'cause this is how we're gonna learn it, you know? And so, like, Ethne went to homecoming, and it's fun to see the boys like, who did she cut? Like, so even like, but just to be a part of a church where it's like, I don't have to be stuck in women's ministry, and the whole ministry isn't dependent on me, and I can switch to what I want to do and where I feel the Lord leading, and that has always been backed with blessing.
I still remember the first day I visited our Sunday service. I was welcomed. People smiled at me, hugged me like they care. I don't feel that I'm a foreigner or I'm a visitor. I feel that they want me here, something like that. And what always kind of Bridgeport changed me. I think I've been living here for a few years, but I've been working for 8 years. What this church changed me is it helped me to be a local, authentic person, and meanwhile to be welcoming and high tolerant. I think
high tolerant.
I mean, I don't know if that's what I'm thinking and what I'm speaking, but I just feel that I don't see it very much in US or in Chicago. It's like people always are in their comfortable people group, like, and it's very divided. The whites are with the whites, the Chinese are with the Chinese always, and the blacks are with blacks, and but are Latino with the Latino. And if you want to be authentic, you are not kind of multi-ethnic. If you are authentic, you are not multi-ethnic. But if you are multi-ethnic, you need to keep yourself like very restrained and very contained in a way that the way you behave yourself. But I just feel in Bridgeport, everybody is authentic in their own ways, and we kind of get along. That is something really special, and it changed me inside of my heart. I feel like I can authentically be a Chinese and be with you guys. Yeah, and it kind of the church actually under Luke's supervision gives us freedom through the years. The first thing I want to do in this church is construction. Yeah. Do you guys remember how it looks like?
Every time I walk by that wood floor, I'm like, isn't it like pink carpet?
Blue.
Blue, okay.
Oh yeah,
but it was nasty.
Yeah.
Do you want to recall?
Oh, I remember that we're getting ready to launch the Mandarin in Shillong. It's like new lights, stage lights, modern. I'm like, oh, okay. Do you have somebody that can do that? Yeah, I'll get a contractor in here. And pretty much one day we had all these lights around the edges, and changed the flow. Oh yeah, and the foyer.
In this very spot of what we've been talking about, I remember it's crystal clear. We have a fake oven right there. No, not oven. Fireplace there, and over there, there's a faith, Greek kind of God faith on the fireplace, and there is a bookshelf, stone bookshelf.
Right.
Yeah, it looked like a fountain type thing.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. It
You
was
would put
there.
books
It was
in there.
occupied.
And Christmas tree, you know.
It was occupied such a huge space, and it has no function at all. And I said I want to change that. I said, people may like it. And it was here before we came here.
Oh, a long time.
Oh.
And
Because of the
it became sacred.
The
intolerance.
tolerance.
The intolerance of people.
I was tolerating those things.
And it was sacred.
and people wouldn't tolerate moving it.
Oh man, I knew.
They thought it came with the house. It came with the building. But when we tear that thing down, the bookshelf down, you know what we found? there's a fish statue inside. It's like a deep ocean fish, demonic looking fish inside of the bookshelf.
Wow.
Yeah, when we break it down, we know it's not secret, and nobody speaks a thing about it anymore. It's like, oh, I'm glad it's gone. I don't like it at the beginning.
That is true. Nobody missed it. Once it was gone, like,
Yeah.
oh, it looks nice. So,
Oh my God.
But did the stained glass, was that already down before you?
No, that was
before you.
Before
Okay.
me, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, physical changes
Yeah.
were very slow. I think that's, if you guys want to say we were a tolerant congregation and I'm a tolerant leader,
There was a
that's why I was
stained
slow.
glass,
It was huge.
Yeah,
6 foot by 8 foot.
Yeah, the reason you remove it is
Because it was Jesus right in the front.
It's not about it's Jesus. It's about the neighborhood, the kind of.
Yeah, well, I'm just not a fan of it being front and center, and it
Yeah.
wasn't depicting any biblical scene.
Right.
It was
right.
just kind of a Jesus-looking thing, and there were people that when we take communion, they're like, lifting up to the toasting to the. And I said, this has got to go. And
Are you talking about the picture?
the
Stained
stained glass.
That was stained glass?
Do you
Okay.
remember?
I just remember a big picture in the center, and the people who were from Doremus, they were very upset when you
Yes.
took it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
That and the white
And there
cross
was
out
a lot
front
of us-
that got put back out.
A lot of us
Cross
had
it
to,
back?
The cross.
yes, and there was a lot of us that had to help them get past it,
Yeah.
because they didn't
And
understand.
Right. And I felt like at that point in the church, we had waited long enough that the
Yes.
majority of us were solid
Yes.
and understood why we may want to take something down like that.
Right.
And here's biblical reasons why. Here's even functional reasons. We want to project words in the middle. That makes better sense to put it in the middle. And just changes with the building. People. You do get emotionally attached to the look of a place,
Right,
but the church is about people,
Right.
and so that's why we just
that's
push
what's-
through and make.
And
these
that's
changes.
another beautiful thing about New Life is that there is so many different ethnic people here.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just all here. I mean,
Yeah.
We have a good mixture of it. And
Very diverse.
yes,
Very diverse.
extremely.
Yeah.
And I like that. I
Mm.
like that. I have
Yeah.
now. I don't. Being a Bridgeporter, there are some. Bridgeport women are really tough women. They really
Only you can see this.
we're tough, and but we're gentle,
Yeah.
but we're tough.
Mhm.
So a lot of us would pick up some kind of words or something to protect us. I would come up and say, "Oh, shut up, shut up." But I wasn't telling anybody to shut up. But a lot of people would look at me and shut up.
She just told me to shut up.
And Luke would come behind. She didn't mean that.
Let me
A couple of
translate
times,
from Bridgeport for you.
I would see him step up, and I thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. It was fun.
It's very
I love
represents
it.
what Chicago actually is, right?
Yeah. And what's beautiful is that the church accepts you for who you are.
Right.
I mean, I'm a huggy person. I love hugging. They allow me to hug them. So they're very loving and caring, and what's really also beautiful about it, because since the pandemic, of course there is changes, but there are still a family core that is in the church to represent what a family is, and I think that is so important. And I wish there were more older people in our church now, seniors. There isn't, but they are coming up. They are coming up from the ground, or from the growing up in this church. So they are coming up, and they can fill in those little gaps. So it would be a beautiful thing for us to have older people, and it's coming. That's all I can say. It's coming.
You're calling me old. Just kidding.
Yes, you're one of them coming up.
What is the most important thing for you in this church?
So, being accepted, number one, because even though I was taken care of when I was homeless, there wasn't it wasn't that I wasn't accepted, but it was something different when I was accepted into this body of believers. And I do want to emphasize this. I missed the opportunity to study the Bible all my life. I am so thankful that I got a chance to meet someone who brought me in and sat me down. But I don't want to sit down. I don't want to sit down. We have been through many of situations and conversations about I don't want to be here. But his persistence, he wouldn't give up. And that did. Finally, I meet somebody. I thought it was going to be a wife or something. But I finally meet somebody that cares enough to not give up. Oh, people, awesome. All my life, people have said, oh, he ain't going to change. Don't worry about it. He ain't going to change. But for a person to meet someone that don't count him out. Don't count him out. And I love that. Learning the Bible and being accepted. I was invited to a black church, and they had suits and ties on, and it was a neighborhood church, and because I was homeless and unbearable, I had to sit in a room by myself, even though I was invited to this church. Okay. But here's the thing about it, you ain't doing nothing to better yourself. So it wasn't their fault. You come, you sit up, you listen to a service, and you're having a good time, and you, in African American churches, you're feeling good. Hallelujah. But, man, what is that? Is that a dead mouse or what? So, this felt good to be accepted, because I brought the smell with me. Pastor Luke said, don't worry about it, we got a shower right there. So, I love that. I love that.
Wow. And I always want to say, Marcus, that more than me, just to give God glory and as a congregation, because I loved hearing stories, people who would meet you on Sunday and then see you in the neighborhood throughout the week and stop their car and pull over and say, hey, Marcus, how are you doing? At the gas station, wherever you are, we have funny stories. I knew where Marcus lived, so I would go pick on him there. But it wasn't just me. There were other people checking in on you, but that was that persistence. Like, these people really care, and they're not going to give up.
Especially 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's asleep. Who's caring? Everybody's asleep. Come out, look for you. Boom, boom, boom. Is Marcus there? I have one particular funny story to tell. I told we were living in a tent, and the tent was small enough to where when I laid down, my feet stuck out the tent. And I was supposed to meet Pastor Luke, and I didn't, so he came looking for me. And I heard him say, is Marcus there? And I told my friend, and he said, yeah, don't tell me that, because I see your feet sticking out. So, but it's been a fun journey. I'm loving it. And it's a continual journey.
I'm curious, do you have we call it a sacramental moment or secret moment that you feel you are changed and you know that something changed inside of you, that you became a different person?
Well, all my life I thought I believed in God, but I didn't know that I didn't have a relationship with God except through Jesus Christ. And so even after the first, I think it was about 2 years, because the church sent me to Grand Rapids to a Bible-based drug rehabilitation program and show you the power of God. I stayed in that program for 1 year. The first time in my adult life I had not done drugs for a whole year. Look at the power of God. When I got off the bus to come back to Chicago, I went straight to the dope house.
Oh, okay.
After a year, you would think that, man, you couldn't get away from it. Now you've been blessed to get away from it for a year, a whole year. Drugs was in the building, but I saw an opportunity to maybe change my life. I didn't know nothing about Jesus Christ. I saw an opportunity to maybe change my life. And but a whole year, no drugs, and then to get off the bus, and before I come say hi to anybody, I go straight to the dope house. That's the power of God. That's what I love about how God is blessing me even today, because He is actually changing the way Marcus thinks. It's not just a story. It's not just the Bible. Marcus gets to see in his life the power of God through Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, what is written in all the Bible, the Old Testament, all them guys. I ain't gonna say I was as bad as some guys, but I was pretty bad. I was rebellious against everything. I didn't even think I was an American. That's rebellion. But look at the power of the Lord. And He's steady working. It ain't over. I done graduated from Jesus school. No. And now it's down to, so I don't do the sinning physically. And I had a hard lesson with that. But now the Holy Spirit is working on the thought. The thought.
Do you think the church changed you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to? I want to ask you if there's a moment kind of in this church changed you as a pastor. What was that moment?
Oh, I mean, there's some. I don't know if these are the moments that changed me, but these are notable moments that have had a part of that. So I think one was when we sang in Mandarin for the first time. I remember that very distinctly because it was on our mind and our heart to reach our Chinese neighbors. We didn't know how that was going to be, but we had already been singing Spanish and English every once in a while. And I remember it was in March, and I think it was 2007 that we first sang in Chinese.
And you notice it's the right language?
It just felt so good. And there was a couple that led us, because they were preparing to go to China to be teachers, Alan and Rachel. And so, but that was significant. I felt like that was a God thing. You are becoming what you're meant to be in this neighborhood. Not knowing what it all would play out to be. So that's a big, I think the funeral of a man named Bob Gray was another big moment because of who Bob was. He was a neighborhood guy, a Chicago guy who was saved later in his life, and he stopped drinking and he started loving his wife and his sons in a very different way, and he just dedicated his life to Jesus, and it was the ministry of our church that was supporting this life change, a radical life change. He was a new man. And then he in a few years he had cancer and he passed away, and so that was like sobering to me. This is your work, to love people, to share Jesus, to help them become formed, that they would have whatever legacy God would have them have, you support that. So that was very formative for me. I think, Kat, what you mentioned, I do care as a leader that people who work with do not feel that they have to, but they want to. And so that's always been a bit of a tension, because New Life is a pragmatic, we want to see growth, we want to see numbers, we want to see, and I believe that God wants fruit, and I believe God will bring fruit, but I believe we got to go back to the root issue, as if you're abiding with Christ, He will bring fruit from your life. And so I want to listen to sisters who say, I think I need to take a break from leading. I think I don't want to do women's ministry, but I want to teach the Sunday school. And say, well, I trust the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, and I want to support that. And so we still have needs, and we let the needs be known, but also, maybe letting Bread of Life, which was kind of a headliner ministry for us, letting that go was probably significant for our church too, to say, we will just trust God, that we don't have to have a specific ministry in order to be a legitimate church or whatever. We're going to let it be spirit-led and gifting-led and season of life, you know, all these are parts of it. So that's my prayer. So those are some lessons for me. Well, and one more, just teaching the Bible. Teaching the Bible in a way that is clear. I love my Moody education, but I think that I've had to scale it back. And my goal is simple enough for someone who doesn't know hardly anything, but also meat for the mature believer. So by God's grace, I think there's nuggets. I can drop some nuggets for seasoned people, and new people say, I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. The Bible is clear to me. And so that's been a goal. And the diversity has come, I believe, because we simply exalt the Bible and Jesus. Let's make this be the top. And then all of us come in under that, and then we can be united together. But we're not chasing any ethnic group necessarily. We're chasing Jesus. And whoever is hungry for him, come on in.
I still remember before we launched the Mandarin congregation, if you can recall, it was a real revival atmosphere. It feels every week that full of energy. Just people are so loving, and even the songs are very kind of vibrating and empowering. I was saying, and we have lunch often after the service. It feels good, and I really want that to happen again. And we didn't know what we did right. I mean, combine was a right idea, but now we have two congregations. But I do want because I kind of still committed to the ministry here. I still want to serve my congregation, but I still want to also serve the English congregation. I wonder what is the vision for the future, and what can we change, what can we do better, what God is set ahead of us. I kind of want to know. So just want to share with you guys, not the elders team, but just you guys to just talk about it. Yeah.
I'll let you guys go first.
Well, thanks.
No number. We don't talk about number.
No, I'm not thinking number.
Yeah.
I think I just want to, we're hearing Marcus's testimony, which I think is a beautiful thing. And while he's talking about his testimony, I am reflecting on a woman's testimony that came from this church. Her name was Maria. I don't know if you recall. Yes. And she was another homeless woman who lived under the viaduct. And she came to our church, and we embraced her and helped her, get her life in order. And she knew she could not stay in this neighborhood. She had to get out. And so she set a plan, sitting down and setting a plan, and with the plan, knowing that she wanted to make sure that she did not leave that route that was being mentored and developed in her, and where she was growing. She moved out of the neighborhood. She's on the other side of Joliet, about maybe a half hour. But through that, she got into a beautiful church that she went through a couple to find something like New Life. She says, I'm looking for something like New Life. Well, she found a church like that fit for her as New Life did. And from that, she got herself a car, and then a couple of years later, she bought a home.
Wow.
And I mean, it's a handyman specialty, but with love and all that tender care. Yes. And she gives her testimony always includes New Life and the people within this body that embraced her and didn't shun away from her, and that helped her grow and changed her life. And she was able to reconnect with her children and her dad. And so it's just amazing. what Jesus
Yeah.
did for us on that cross. And all we have to do is embrace it and be excited about it and walk it. And we don't have to do anything but love. Love.
She thinks I always talk about love.
Okay.
Love.
He does. Yeah.
All we need is love.
I don't say
that. No, you don't. But I think we're on the right track as long as we are, Christ-centered, remembering our salvation, giving glory and thanks all the time for it, and living it, and then pouring it into our families. So it just excites me when I look at our families here in the church and I see the love and the pour and the discipline of our children. And it is because of the teaching of what is a family. So if I could say anything out there, you need a family grounded church for your families. Dads, get out here with your wives. Okay. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
So you're asking more about partnership between the English congregation?
Not necessarily. I think we.
Well, as part of vision.
Yeah,
Like, welcome to the Cat Luke experience, where I share like bold things that may not happen.
Well, this is the time.
So, I would say even in the past month, Yeelan and Holly from your congregation have started to come to children's ministry because they want to be more involved with like how do we do this with kids. So that's been super fun to get to know Yeelan specifically, and because they have, we stay late, right? After church, running through the gangway, and then you guys start, and we're like, shh, and then we walk through, and we see him working with one kid, and so, and that one, so we were talking, and I was like, and it's just interesting to hear about your congregation, and like, Yeelan comes in from Oak Park, and Holly comes from Naperville.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you coming this far? And they're like, because it's a church. Like, it's the church where we feel like, just like where they feel planted and where they can grow. And so they're going to travel for that.
Yeah.
And so I threw it out there and I was like, well, Yeelan, if Davidson would want to join us, like, we'd love, like, we already have a ministry going. So if Davidson wants to come early and come with us, and then I don't know what he would do during your congregation time. Like, he could listen or hear or do a worksheet follow-up, but then he'd be part of a community. And he came today. It was his first time coming down to Children's Church. I hope he lasted, because it was 12 boys, and it was really loud. But he came to the park with us, and he's very shy. And so I know Yeelan will be really excited that he came. But I think, like, just knowing we have 2 congregations in the building, and like you said, you love the lunch ministry. I know people would stay for a lunch ministry. I know I am personally really encouraged whenever you speak at the English congregation, because to bring a different cultural perspective to the scripture is amazing. So I don't know if even the 2 of you, if it would give you pastoral break to switch and give each other a week off of like, you're going to do both sermons this week, or he's going to do both sermons this week. But I think it'd be great if we had like more small groups where it was like combined, or I think, I don't know if this is still true post-pandemic, if you guys have you used to have a very college age crowd. And we've got some college age kids, but again, like, if we could, if they were talking to each other, or I think you have more young professionals now, and I think college kids that are coming up on their senior year, it's a big, like, what am I going to do with my life? And Bob and I tell them, you're actually never going to figure it out. So welcome to the experience. But for them to have somebody who's actually just gotten through that stage and survived, like, if they could meet with them and talk with them, I think that would be, so I don't know, but just some grand visionary things is lunches again together. I love when we do combine services and some sort of small groups.
I do think actually we are a very interesting model for many multi-ethnic community to look at. I'm invited to speak at different churches about our ministry. As Luke said, it's really not about what we did, it's about the whole community and the people involved make it very special. And I still remember when we launched the Mandarin congregation, I cooked for English co-workers, and I was representing our ministry, and I said, we need you in order to become ourselves. I wish one day you will see the same. And I think it's coming to that we kind of really need each other to be a church, to be Bridgeport, and we got some really artistic people like Jackson, Jane, and Eileen, and everybody. And at the meanwhile that we do not have a strong Christian home tradition. As you said, if you want a home kind of ministry, you need to come to a home-based church. And we feel that we are lack of that, and we still can learn from your people, and we can still kind of grow into a more Christ-like home, and that's so important. At the meanwhile that people will go out, like they used to live in Bridgeport for their life. We know people who live in this neighborhood for their life, but now it changed. The people will leave Chicago, will leave US, will leave on board, and they will come back someday. But the world is changed, and I think we really need to digest that and work with it to make it local, and meanwhile global. How it looks like is a question, but you have some vision as a pastor of
lots of ideas, but I do think that we continue to emphasize that we are the size that we can be like a family.
Right.
Yeah.
Really emphasize that, and that we can equip families, that we can really pour into marriages and help parenting, and I think that's going to be a great combo ministry, and just how to bring us together with that is important. And I just think just keep pressing into like practical love things for one another. I think COVID has caused, well, for sure, physical distance from one another, but I feel like the repercussions that I feel like we still see on Sunday morning is that there's emotional distance. There's not the same warmth. I don't know people the same way that I used to. And I've felt that, so I get to know visitors and I get their information, that I know a lot of people, but I understand people don't know one another yet.
Yeah.
So we have to work hard, I think, post-COVID to help people want to develop these relationships. And I feel like work life is busier, more demanding on people. And we have a lot of families with young children, and that is a real season of time constraints. So there are these real things that we need to just keep talking about and say, we know that's real, and we're going to appreciate that, but here's where we need to grow. Areas of love and community and working together. I feel like we need to become more of a serving church, and providing practical ways. So Odd Day is trying to go out to the homeless. New Life food pantries are wonderful. Inglewood is a great opportunity for more. So there's a lot of things that I feel like the younger culture that's more skeptical of Christianity wants to say, what are you doing to help the world? Not just preaching, not just talking.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we are actually providing ways. I feel like our congregation has always served, but we haven't done it programmatically. Right. People have just lived their lives looking to do a good thing and they do. So I feel like maybe more programmatic is a way that we could. That's just something I'm thinking, but I would just say love and pressing into that and keep modeling family. Chris, I think you should think about love a little more.
It will cover a lot of things. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I also feel that we are, because of this church being so family-based, there are women, though, that do not have that family. You know, they're single moms, you know, and of course we do have single dads. I do sort of focus with the single moms. Shame on me, I suppose. I don't know. But even women who come to know the Lord and their husband wants nothing to do with it. And to be that spiritual leader, I think that's, there is a way to keep them connected while the woman is growing spiritually and being grounded in the Lord. So I think that is also...
Their need became even heavier than the previous years after pandemic, right? Yeah.
To support them.
Yeah, the church should address that need.
Oh,
yes.
Yes. We were all, the church was very supportive of the... I know, Kat, I think of one in the church right now with Monica's girls. You girls came around Monica and her girls and helped them get grounded in the Word and established. And Monica is very strong and steadfast here and serving. And she's a single parent, you know. So there is definite need, because there's a lot hanging out here in the neighborhood. I don't know how we would even get that out if you're a single mom, or if you're if you want, you know.
I'm the crazy one, fortunately, with Luke, and we just learned so much, and I just feel that possibly because I'm a dad now, I'm with the girl, and I 100% and more agree with what you said. You should support the woman and the moms here. And meanwhile, I feel that there's God being good to us. He being gracious to us, and through all these years, all the challenges, the church is still here. I think Bridgeport, a church can survive 20 years. That's an achievement itself, right there, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, all these years, and we made it, and more, that we kind of being seasoned and rooted and being nutritious, being supported in some way, that we think we are at a better place to do ministry. I really feel that we gain more resource than other communities, that we can actually deliver the love, the word, the care to the community, and we've been talking about it, and I think it's a kind of settled plan that we will reconvert the Positive to be a community coffee. We used to do it as a tea shop, a tea house for the Mandarin. It's been working, and we relocated at Little Italy on UIC campus. We see that we learn so much about actually coffee shop reach out to more people than the church nowadays. They don't naturally walk into church because the church doesn't provide what they want. The church is not a conversational place. People don't hang out at their church. That's creepy. Like, do you want to hang out at my church? What do you want? What do you want from me? And therefore, we reached out to really more people at the Teahouse compared with the physical location of the church. So we wondered that we should multiply that kind of ministry model back in Bridgeport to make a community coffee, to provide high quality coffee with a lot of small group and a lot of reach out, focused reach out group, and it will kind of reopen the door of church, reintroduce us to the community, and provide something. I mean, I think to me in these last few months, I'm trying to answer a question. God said it ahead of me is. What do people need? Like when the disciples of Baptist John saw Jesus, they followed him, and Jesus stopped and looked back, asked them, "What do you want?" And they said, "What do you need?" We actually don't know what we want. And then he said, "Come and see."
Come and see me.
Right? Come and see. I think we need to answer. We need to provide solution to a real need. Address a real need in church. What do people need nowadays? I think they spiritually are hungry, are lonely, still need care, are kind of directionless, like the younger generation. They don't know where they want to go, and we actually God equipped us for that. We are diverse enough to answer a big basket of questions.
I think that's an excellent idea as far as a coffee house goes, but that attracts truly coffee houses that I go to, and they're all in the neighborhood. So if you come in the neighborhood, I would go to yours. But it's usually people with laptops open, phones in their face, and you might see couples together, but you don't see family, or you don't. I don't know how do you. We have all great ideas, but how does that draw? How would that draw? How do you? What is the one thing that we can do that could touch every area of it? I mean, not every area of everybody, but every, if they're single, married, divorcee, how do we touch all of them within one ministry? I don't know what that even looks like.
Well, I will say this. First of all, Pastor Luke and Pastor Shalom, you all are doing a great job.
Yes.
I mean, as far as the building is concerned.
We're still here.
The building is over 100 years old, and we can see every day I walk in. It was surprising to me. I'm here every day, and it was surprising to me that I walked in and the light switch was different. I said, "What? The light switch is different." And one light switch for that side, and one light what? Look at this. But what I will say is that continue teaching the Bible and continue loving, because. So when I tell my testimony, how I was accepted into the church, somebody said, "Oh, okay, so yeah, you've been accepted into the church. Okay, you got." But I want to add to that. Every family in this church, I have been to their house for holidays. There are some families that I have been out of town with. There are some families that I have been out of town with. That's part of the hospitality. That's part of the love. It's good that we got a greeting team. So when people come in, new people, since the pandemic, we got a lot of new people, a lot of young people coming, People say, I saw it I was looking on the computer and I saw it and I said, let me try it out. But the greeting team at the door to make people feel welcome. Even I sit out here on security, but I even have to get up and welcome. This is your first time? How you feel? This is your home too, so But you all are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess any addition will have to come from the upper echelon or the.
I think Luke actually got it right. Love, you need a lot of. I mean, when we say it easy nowadays, it's like a church advertisement is like free love, right? Free love and all that. We say it too easy sometimes, even on the pulpit. When I preach, God loves you, we love you, we love each other. It means nothing to them because there's nothing followed up with the love we proclaim. There's nothing you actually put into practice and you hold it accountable. The love we say, and by experience we know that is not the case in this church, right? I mean, when he said he loves me, it means he actually really took me to this job, shepherded me, and helped me to be a pastor, all of that. And I mean, especially in these days, I still feel what is the one thing we can reach out to everybody in every area is like we genuinely love and care enough. Do I still care? If I still care, I think I will reach you in some way. And I will make up a way to reach you. I will set up a coffee shop to reach you. I will make up a concert just to reach you. I will show a movie to reach you. I will make a dinner just to reach you.
I think too that it starts with your neighbors. The Lord said, "Love your neighbors as you love yourself." So I really think it starts with your neighbor by developing a relationship with them. So you you have that opportunity to say, I would love to invite you. And it's their choice if they choose not to come or go. And when I brought my neighbor here last night, when we left, she says, Chris, I want you to know, well, she's Catholic. She's been all her life. And I got it and understood it. We talk scriptural all the time. And anyways, that's another story in itself. But she had told me, she says, I really think my daughter would love this place. And I says, I really think she would too. So between the two of us, we'll get her here. And so I think I know that is one avenue that we have freedom with. We don't have to have any set programs or coffee houses or shows or whatever, but to invest time in one neighbor. In my case, it took over 40 years, but that's because of seasonal life, And so I think I always think of the Prel shampoo, which is probably before everybody's time.
I don't think so.
In them little boxes they have, the Prel.
Yeah,
you tell somebody and they'll use a Prel, and then all of a sudden it's building up. Everybody's using Prel. So I think if we can help our church families meet their neighbors and in a caring, loving way, that they will feel, she's not out or he's not out there to hurt me.
That's right.
They're out there to encourage and to help me grow in a healthy way, that they truly might come over. And I know Kat works, her husband works. I'm amazed, because I grew up, when I was growing up with my kids, I was a stay-at-home mom. I did not go to work at all because we were in that affordable time, although there was a lot of things we didn't have. It was, we lived on the base of needs. But being home was so much easier because us women who were home on the block, I got to know all of the women. We would bake cakes with each other. We'd sit in the house of everybody's house and have coffee, tea, Bible studies. It was a wonderful time. So if we can get back to, and it's so hard because I know you girls are working, you all have family, and it's rough when you're tired. It's rough when you're tired. You're tired, and then for me, who it's easier for us older women to be out during the day instead of at night because I'm done. I'm getting tired. So I can my energy is during the day, not in the evening. So if we can kind of help train women and men who can give time, or how does that look like, I guess?
That's a very good idea.
I think it's important.
Training people to take the positions or the responsibility, because even with me retiring, I have faithfully cleaned for all these years, but now it's to the point where my body says you can't do it no more.
Right.
You don't know what you're talking about. I can keep on doing this, but no.
Start
so
training
to train people to fit in, to take up the slack, to take the responsibility.
And looking at we have to be program set. So when we bring our families in for church, that their kids are going to be loved on. Not that we don't have that, but they need to know that their kids are going to be loved on while they're being taught over by Pastor Luke or Shalom. So everything has to be prepared. We need to be preparing even the body within the church to be, not that we're not.
Some good programs.
Yeah.
I don't even, not that we don't have it, we do have it, but I don't know if we are using it.
Yeah. I think from doing the Teahouse, I became out of the normal ministry zone, but it helped me to see how the world functions. You brand something. And you put up with the statement, slogan, promoting, very focused on the target market, and to resolve a certain problem, and people will understand it, and that kind of make it work, and it kind of help us to redesign the church programs. How do we not sell it, but how do we promote it? Let people understand what we've been doing in a new way, in a modern and a simplified way. Yeah, we are about to close. Do you want to say something at the end of it?
I got a lot of good ideas from you guys. Thank you very much. Should do a brainstorm like this with you guys more often.
Once in a while.
I'm just grateful. This month of 20 years has been like, I don't know what the word is for me, but it's been great to just think through, extra work. Kat, thank you. You've been putting a lot of time in. But just like, I don't know, it's quieting to my soul. Like, wow, God, look at all the people that have come through. It would be so fun if everybody who has ever been a part would be able to come back. Like, what a celebration that would be.
Only in heaven.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And so, I don't know, just, praise God, and I want to, may we keep continuing doing what we're, and of course, it's always been changing and morphing, and I'm expecting that will continue, but can we have that foundation of love and the Word of God as the base? And I'm confident God will continue to build His church here.
Please pray for us as a New Life Bridgeport. And we are still learning, and we are a group of very authentic and high tolerance people. we are very diverse, and we're very excited for our church life here together, and we kind of still passionate for it, and we still think that there are more things, new things can be done, and we care everybody who's in the neighborhood or distance from the neighborhood. We genuinely have the care for people, and pray for us, join us, and be a part of us sometime. And it's fun. It's really fun. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank
you.